Hi everybody, Lisa from Supportive Tarot. I'm going to try this video and we'll see how it goes, but my computer is running some processes, so it may get a little crazy. I might need to redo it. We'll see. We'll see. I have hope. First of all, happy Maybun to everybody. It is the fall equinox. Things are in balance. I really enjoyed getting into my little vanity area and pulling out all my like orangey yellow fall colored makeup and like doing an eye look. Anyways, totally unrelated to tarot, but I had so much fun that I can't not talk about it. So when I'm filming this, it is Saturday morning and I've just watched Simon's live chat and redid my nails and just had a really glorious morning with my pumpkin spice flavored coffee, and I'm just soaking in all the lovely fallness and it's amazing. But the purpose of this video is to tell you a little bit about, sort of review my experiences with the Tarot and Oracle deck that I worked with this past week, and then share with you which decks I'm going to be working with next week. So with that, I'm just going to jump right into it. So if you've been watching my channel, you know that I was working very closely with the Fountain Tarot this week after it won my Tarot Knockouts series, which I will, if you haven't seen that, it's kind of long and chatty and silly, but I will link it in the cards, probably on that side up there somewhere. I'll link it in the cards for you so that you can take a look. If you are interested in that sort of thing, look at, I'm immediately shuffling. Like, it's so compulsive. Does anybody else do that? Anyway, the Fountain Tarot comes in this really beautiful box, which I'm not going to lie, was definitely one of the things I was drawn to about it. Like, look at that, like, iridescent amazingness on the box. Like, I love it. And this was actually, I think, the first tarot deck I owned that had the box that had, like, sort of the magnetic closure here, and I love that. And I also love, there's some extra cards in here from the artist. It's got the ribbon, and then I also love that it came with a decent little guidebook, as opposed to we're not seeing anymore, I think, in decks those little white pamphlets. Those can be kind of annoying because they don't give you a lot of information, but these little guidebooks can be pretty decent for getting to know a deck. You get a full page for each card. And the other thing that this deck does, let's see if I can say that really well, is that you get at the top of every card, you get a little phrase, like a keyword kind of deal. And I really like that for snappy reminding myself what the purpose of the artists were for this particular deck, how they see the cards. And I like getting to know a deck through the creator's eyes as much as possible, no matter how I end up reading it, because I often read intuitively anyway. I'll pull from both the standard meaning of a card and also what kind of pops into my mind at that moment. That's something that I tend to do in my readings. But I love this. Like for the Wheel of Fortune, they've got unexpected change. For the Hermit, quiet observation. But it's just a really short Five of Cups. Sorry, I interrupted myself. But Five of Cups, befriending grief. Like, how good is that, right? And that's enough to jump off of, even without going into the description, going into the meaning or the reversal. So I really love just flipping and just seeing what that first phrase is, whether or not I read further. So that's a really cool thing about this. And this little guidebook is really well bound and just feels really nice. So I really like that. As far as the actual cards themselves, I really enjoyed this week noticing the way that the deck was breaking in a little bit for me. I don't know if anybody else likes that. It's got the really nice gilding, but the gilding is starting to wear a little bit just from shuffling. And that's something that I enjoy. I enjoy seeing that my decks are well loved and well used. So I really like that. And it's taking on a little bit of a, not a bend, maybe a little bit from rifle shuffling, but I also like that. Like, I like pulling it out and going, yeah, like I've really dug into this one. But the card images are, of course, lovely. And I didn't pull this magician out when I did my tarot memoirs that went live today, Saturday, at the time I'm filming this, but that was a really nice one. This deck, I feel like there's so much feeling. I'm going to see if I can hold it on the other side of me here. There's so much feeling in the characters. Like, look at that Strength card. I love it. Strength is one of the cards that I really enjoy pulling out of a deck when it's brand new and seeing what I think about it. It's one of my, I don't know, one of the cards rather that I like to look at. I love this Lovers. So nice. Is that actually Lovers or Two of Cups? Yeah, that's Lovers. Sorry, my light's a little washed out, but That card is also very pale. But this is the Six of Wands, and I love that this character is being like sort of carried across a bunch of people. Like they're like taking him across the crowd, like somebody who jumps off the stage. It's kind of that sort of energy. I really like that. Love, love, love this High Priestess. This came up earlier this week in comments somewhere. I can't remember where because I have the worst memory, but someone pointed out that this was their favorite High Priestess. And I love the imagery here of the veils behind her, these long, silky, yeah, these veils. It just reminds me of the veil between worlds. It reminds me of that sort of mysterious secrecy where we can see a little bit, but not a lot, which really pulls out the mystery in this card, I think. Yeah, that'll be a good one. Maybe I'll pull that one into my tarot memoirs next week. That'll be a really pretty image to show. Anyway, see, I'm shuffling again. Okay, I'm going to put those away and not drop all my cards like I did during my live last week. Now my cards are upside down. Okay, there we go. So that was the tarot deck I worked with this week. As far as my experiences with it, I felt like I got really clear reads. I didn't pull anything that kind of gave me pause in a way where I felt like I couldn't read it. I didn't really get stuck. I didn't really refer to the guidebook that much, even when reading for myself, which is something that I tend to do a lot of typically. I was able to read very easily and very intuitively. Somebody in my live chat last week mentioned that this deck has a very neutral vibe, and I think that's really a good description for this deck. It really does. There's the backings. I didn't show them again. Really pretty. It really does have that neutral energy to it. It doesn't feel like it has a lot of bias. Some decks, like I mentioned this with my beloved Osho Zen, some decks do have a very clear, in my mind anyways, a very clear bias in one direction or another over certain suits or over certain cards. And this one just feels really clean. Maybe that's the word I was looking for before. It doesn't feel airy to me like some people describe it. It does feel very clean, very crisp. So that was really, really fun to work with this week, and I really enjoyed revisiting it, although it's always going to be a love. I really, really love this one. And put the little book back. So that goes away, and the Oracle deck that I was working with this week is the really, really lovely Goddess Oracle I'm going to show you the guidebook here, by Sophia. What is it? Sophia Marashinsky and Hrana, Janto? I'm not sure how to say that. Cover of this book is really beautiful. Sorry if you can see reflections. I know it's probably distracting, but really, really beautiful. The guidebook with this deck, you guys, is really incredible. It's the way that the cards are described, or the section in the book for each card, is really beautifully done. For every single card, there is a little mini image of the card. There is, oh, over there, there's the title of the card, or the goddess. Then below, there's a little poem. And to me, I read that poem as like an invocation, like a blessing from that goddess or for that goddess. And so what I found, and after that, you get a little bit of the mythology, so the origin of the goddess. It's really an easy read. It's usually just a few paragraphs starting here, and then it goes over here. And then you get a description for what the meaning of the card is. And then you get a ritual suggestion. And these rituals are not involved. These are really, really easy things to do. A lot of them are self-guided meditations. Some of them are, it's really good. It's really good. And I could definitely see working with this throughout the year rather than only pulling it for my daily card pulls for my altar. I could definitely see working with this throughout the year when I want to pull in a particular energy, doing the invocation, holding that goddess as space on my altar, and doing the ritual. I could see really going, yeah, I really need to work on my boundaries, and pulling out Durga. Or I found it really powerful to work with. I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna get into the cards and show you some of the goddesses that I worked with this week. And I will say, so there's the backings again. Let's see if I can hold that up a little bit better there. There's the backings again. Really lovely with the cauldron there. What I did, because I tend to get into a routine and that works for me, so what I did with this deck is every day when usually in the evenings, I would pull my card for the next day. I would pull the card, I would read aloud the invocation or the blessing at the beginning of the guidebook, and I found that to be really powerful in connecting me with that particular goddess's energy. And then after that, I would read the meaning and the mythology, and then I would consider if I wanted to do the ritual that day or not. And I think I did the rituals for about half of these goddesses, and they came up in a very meaningful way for me throughout the week. So that was really powerful. So I got carriage one twice this week, which for the time of year is not a surprise. We're moving into the dark half and we're moving into an introspective time. This was one of my first card pulls as well, Artemis, earlier this week. And this really, I think, helped to set my focus for the week. She's got a very powerful directive energy, which was really cool to work with. Durga's definitely one that stuck with me. Boundary work is really important in my personal life and in my practice in general. So learning more about Durga and considering her with the idea of boundaries and creating boundaries was really powerful. I did do the ritual with this one, which was about creating a personal boundary around yourself that was like an energetic boundary, and it was really, really cool. Which one do we have? Brigid. So I can't really read it in the preview screen. For inspiration, she was also really cool to work with this week. I love this goddess, and I don't know that I've ever been exposed to her before. This is Nukua. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It might be Nukua. I might have the emphasis wrong. This card is just lovely. I just want to like curl up at her feet. She's got this beautiful, loving, but not, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not formal energy, but she's got a nurturing in the, these are the rituals that are important. This is the structure around what's important. She's somebody I could picture doing a really lovely, elaborate tea ceremony. Like that's the kind of energy I get from her with this concept of order. She came up later in the week for me, and I really enjoyed reading more about her and learning more about her. And I think I want to dive in a little deeper with this goddess. On the other hand, I can get a little carried away with order in my own life. So she may not be what I need, but she definitely felt homey and comfortable to me. And then, pardon me, there's a little bit of nudity here, so if you don't like that, I mean, if you're watching a tarot channel, you're probably used to it, but this is Hathor, and she was Pleasure? Yeah, Pleasure. And this was really cool because when she came up, I'm also following along. I interrupt myself all the time. I'm also following along with Kelly Ann Maddox's Self-Care September, and she had done a really well done, very classy video about sex and sexuality and self-care and how we engage in that way. And then Hathor came out like for me the day after I saw that video. And so I really focused that day on bath time and shower time, just kind of, well, obviously I did one or the other. I can't remember which. It was a bath or a shower. But I focused on feeling that, like really focusing on my senses, like feeling my hands on my skin and things like that as I was bathing. So I really soaked up some of this energy that day. That was really cool. And then this was my last card pull of the week. And I don't know how to say her name. Urinome? Ecstasy. I did not spend quite as much time with her, so I still need to do a little bit more reading. But she reminded me, the day that I pulled her, she just kind of reminded me to stay light on my feet, if that makes sense, to stay light with my energy. Really cool. I do think I'm going to work with this deck quite a bit more, like I mentioned. I really think I'm going to pull this out very frequently to work with particular goddess energies or to pull goddess energy into my practice. So that was a really, really special deck to work with this week. Very happy with both. I felt very connected to both decks, so it was a really smooth week. Sometimes when I randomize, which I'll talk about in a minute, when I randomize my pulls for the week, sometimes I get a deck that I'm not as connected to, and it's a little bit more of a process of learning and getting to know the deck. But these both felt just comfortable and they flowed really well. They worked beautifully together to me, so that worked out really well too. So this week I did pick my decks I want to work with very consciously, mostly because in that tarot knockouts that I did, I really saw some decks that I realized I need to spend more time with, so I wanted to prioritize at least one or two of them. So I'll show you those in a moment, but first I wanted to tell you that I don't normally necessarily consciously pick a deck. I'm trying to find a balance between consciously choosing a deck to work with in a particular week if I'm called to work with one, or randomizing which deck I'm going to work with that week so that I get unusual pairings, or I get decks at a time of the year that I might not normally reach for them, because I think that helps to stretch the way that I think about all of my decks, the way that I work with all of my decks. So you might be familiar from my Tarot Knockouts video with the random name generator that I use. So I'll show you kind of what that screen looks like. Lenormand, Oracle, and Tarot. I have a list for each one. This is just called Random Name Picker is the name of the app. And I have it on my Android phone. And what I've done is loaded all of the tarot decks that I own. This is also great for inventory too, honestly. But I've loaded all the decks that I own. Oops, I don't want to erase anything. Into this list. So then I've set it up so that it will usually pull 2 names at a time. 2 or 3. I've done 2 or 3, depending. And so what I'll do is I'll make sure that it's got all of my decks on there, and then I'll hit choose, and it'll give me, oops, did I hit choose? Yeah. So like if I were to do that for this week, I would be choosing to work with either the Wild Unknown or Tarot of Moon Garden. Sorry if that was fuzzy. This is really great because, again, it reminds me what I have in my collection, and it's an opportunity to almost use a very technical form of divination to choose my next deck. So that's what I often do, and I know it's a little out of the box, but I enjoy randomizing. I think it's really good to get me out of my head a little bit. And I need to do tools. I need to use tools to get me out of my own way. So that's been really helpful. But this week there were 2 decks I really wanted to work with, and together for some reason, which is really interesting. But I chose for tarot this week to work with the lovely Star Tarot. I'll hold it over here. This is a deck that I trimmed the moment I had it in my hands because it has giant borders. These are the backs. But I have not yet edged the deck, and I need to do that. So I'll probably do that as one of my bonding things with the deck this week. Sorry if my camera stutters a little bit. Let's see if I can. There we go. Yeah. So this one, I didn't actually write the titles of the cards on. I think most of them are pretty obvious, but there are some I'm going to have to think about. So this will be a great opportunity to get more familiar with the deck, to really look through the images. And I do, whatever deck I'm working with that week, I do at least once in the week slowly go through all the images and just take a moment to think about what they make me think of. It's just a way to refamiliarize myself with a particular deck, and also just to get to know it better in a general way. So I'm really excited to work with that this week. I will let you all know how it goes next weekend. But yeah, very excited to be working with that one. And the Oracle deck I chose to work with this week is the really lovely Wisdom Keepers. This one's gigantic. The really lovely Wisdom Keepers deck. So I'll hold them over there. Those are the backings with the beautiful like dragonfly key. These ones on the front are faces. And each face is filled with all of these symbols that I really think the artist intuitively chose these. And at the bottom there's a keyword to work with. There's a lot of layers to this deck. Oh, I love the face. But there's a lot of depth, and I really enjoy. There's almost no way. Let's make sure we're not going to hit. There's a card in here that's a mirror, and I don't want to blind you. It's really hard to look at these cards and not look, sorry, no, I'm covering up the words, and not look the characters in the eyes. Like this one's probably the only one in the entire deck with closed eyes. But most of them, the second you pull out the card, you find yourself just gazing into the eyes of the figure shown. And what's really cool about this is that in the guidebook, which is not small, this deck, I don't know who's the publisher. This is a Seal Pup Press. Oh, it's not even like, I thought it was like maybe a Hay House or something. But this deck is not insignificant in size, and it's actually slightly smaller profile. Well, I guess it's about the exact same size as the size of the cards. Yeah, it's about the exact same size. But, so I do keep it in the bag with the cards. This is 100 and, not including acknowledgments, 165 pages, so probably 167-ish pages long. And you get 2 full pages for every single card. I'm just going to open the spine a little bit here. hold it on that side. Oop, there we go. So you get like a little picture right here, a little mini. And then what you get at the top is a few keywords. So you get the gift of this card, the shadow of this card. There's also city, I think that's like the seed of wisdom of that card. And then a programming partner. The programming partner I'm not familiar with, but you can kind of pair up this card with, it'll tell you who its partner is in the deck. So there's another card that kind of works with this particular energy. And then each card has a story written in the first person. So this card, for example, is resourcefulness, I guess is probably the name of the card. And then it's got my wisdom story, and it starts with, my father was an idealistic young man who was willing to sacrifice his life for our country. And it goes on into like a full story, and it talks in every single card. What really stands out to me is that in every single card, there's a moment where the person, the figure you're looking at, had a struggle. They dealt with their own shadow. They had work to do, and then kind of how they came out the other side. So it's very relatable and very human, and that's really, really beautiful. And then after the story, there's a section called My Gift to You up here, and that's pretty lengthy, and it's kind of like their message directly to you. So the first part is written as if they're telling you their background story. Come on, camera, I'm here. There we go. The first part is them telling you their background story. The second part is like, here's what I'm here to teach you. And then there's questions for contemplation, and my goal this week is to use those questions as journal prompts and pick a couple at least to write about with every card. So I will let you know how that goes. Hopefully I'll remember to follow up on that part next week. I'll have to remember to remind myself to watch this video back again before I do next week. But in any case, I'm going to be working with those Wisdom Keepers and the Star Tarot this week, and I'm really excited. I think the energies of these both will work really well together. And yeah, so I'm super, super excited. That is it. The only other thing I guess I'll mention is that I have still been working my way through the guidebook for the Fairy Tale Tarot. The fairy tales mentioned in this deck are not fully familiar to me. Some of them are. I used to read some of the original, like Grimm's fairy tales, the darker ones. So those ones I'm familiar with as they come up. But some of these others are from other cultures and countries, and I'm just not as familiar. So I've been slowly working my way through story by story to get to know this deck a little better. Once I've finished digesting this, I will probably pull my Fairy Tale Tarot by Baba Studio into my decks of that week. So whenever I finish this, that will be probably one of my first priorities, because I didn't have a lot of luck working with it before really diving into these. So I'm looking forward to doing that, but that will be in the future. So that is it for this video. I'm going to film another one in a minute, so if you see me looking exactly the same in more than one video, it's because I like to film more than one at a time. But anyways, wherever you are in the world, whether it is, you know, East Coast, West Coast, Europe, I'm babbling. Anyway, have a beautiful morning, day, evening, wherever you might be, and I will talk to you all very soon. Bye!